Okay, hey, thanks for joining me today. Real quick, I'm Alek Dincoff, and I'll be chatting with, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so Steve Todd, founder of Open Source Workplace.
Exactly, and you're the man of the hour here. So why don't you just jump in and either tell us a little bit about your background or a little bit more about Open Source Workplace for those who haven't heard of it.
Sure. So a little bit of background about me. I grew up in Belfast, moved to Manchester, then London, then came to New York in 2006. My background has been primarily in finance, FP&A, so very, very number based. And then I sort of got interested in real estate. I want to say 2014, 2015 is kind of when I got first curious. And my curiosity was more about negotiating leases. But as I got in and I negotiated a few leases, a lot of them seemed to be kind of the same. And in 2016, I got an opportunity to lead a workplace strategy group at NASDAQ. That completely changed my trajectory in a sense of what sort of my passion and everything about it. Workplace has taken over, and I guess I almost see it as a service for other people. And then whenever I sort of ask myself about, well, why is that? Why is the service to other people so important to me? Or what is it about that I find so interesting? And I look back at, what I was doing on my finance world, and I could almost correlate the same attributes and the same, I guess, empathy or, that I had, in a sense that whenever I was working in finance, I was always trying to find solutions for what people wanted to achieve, even in their financial restrictions. And in workplace, I kind of see it the same way, where I'm trying to find the right workplace to actually fit the people who work in the various offices. And that fascinates me. And I have such a passion for it.
Okay. Okay. So that's your driving force. That's your why.
That's my why. Yeah.
Good. So you represent Open Source Workplace. What does Open Source Workplace represent? The top down, what you're trying to do with it, get the nitty gritty.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and I kind of smile as you ask the question, because for me it changes every day, and that's so much when I say changes every day. What I mean is not the spirit or the philosophy of what it's trying to do, but actually the tangible thing that you see, or the actual thing that you can touch.
Mm-hmm.
The philosophy for me is everything should be open source. There's a community there who has so much knowledge, and there are facets within that community who want to share it with everybody. And what I want open source to be is the opportunity and the sort of platform that allows everybody to do that, irrespective of who you work for, where you are in the world. It's something that allows everyone to come together. So whenever you look at something, it may change over time, but I think about that philosophy and that sort of spirit, and that's what I'm trying to create with open source.
Okay, perfect. Now I have a question. Your experience with IFMA.
Yeah.
You want to jump in, tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, no, so I've literally just come back from the IFMA conference in Charlotte, and it's for Facility Managers Association. They put on an annual conference. This year was in Charlotte, and I was invited to speak with a company who we use at NASDAQ called Space IQ. And the sort of talk that was there was on the death of commercial lease and why employees should be excited about that. And I got the opportunity to speak a little bit about what we have done at NASDAQ, how we run our real estate, how we make lease decisions, how we plan and work through our workplace solutions, how we come up with our principles, what our guidelines are, how we build out those various spaces. And it was a really great experience for me. It was the first time I'd probably spoken at that sort of level. First time I'd spoken to that sort of group. And what struck me was how many questions I got at the end. I intentionally didn't go too deep into any specific area. I kind of touched on different things so I could, as best try and cover as much content as I could without going very deep. So it almost provoked a lot of questions. And what I sort of came away with at a feeling was one of not so regret. Regret's the wrong word. I almost wish I had ability to sort of speak there for longer and actually almost get everyone around a table, because there were so many challenges that you could sort of read between the lines that people have. Challenges in a sense of access to tools, to access just to processes, templates, guidance on, you know, roadblocks that they may face. And I just I came away thinking there's so much more that maybe that conference and other conferences don't really get to or don't really touch on, you know. And I believe everyone goes to those conferences to learn something, to find a solution to a problem that they have, right? And even if it's not something they have today, but they know there's something coming up in the future, is there something that they can do? So I sort of fermented on that and sort of thought about that for a day or two. And on Saturday or Sunday, must have been Saturday, just the weekend just past there, I sort of started drafting out something, because a few things that people have asked me while I was there was, with open source, would I be creating a conference? And I sort of had a conversation about what I think that would look like. And I sort of came up, well, if I did, it wouldn't be a sales event. There would be no selling. There'll be no selling of anything. It'd have to be where people would come and they'd leave their business cards at the door. And everybody would have to go to solve everyone else's problems. You go with your own problem, and you're going to rely that everyone else is going to help you solve your problem, but you're going to come in the spirit that you're going to solve everyone else's problems. So I sort of thought about that and sort of thought about previous conversations that I've had. So I put together a little note and put it out on LinkedIn, and I called it a workathon. So you've got hackathons, right? So the whole point of a hackathon is you get a problem and everybody's there and you all kind of cuddle together and somebody comes up with a solution. So I called it a workathon, an open source workplace conference, and sort of just threw the idea, the concept out there and just asked people what their thoughts. Is this something that would be interesting to them? The response has been very, very generous. Everyone's been kind of open. Put it across multiple platforms just to sort of see what the feedback is. So I'm going to let it go for another few days and see what I can do. There's a lot of conferences coming up, so I think I'm going to do something with it. And it'll be probably, I imagine, really, really, really small. In a way that'll really help. And I kind of have a format and a layout kind of in my head already and how I would sort of run that. But I definitely want to do it. I definitely want to do it small. I definitely want to get an intimate group in there, because I think if you've got an intimate group of maybe 10 to 15 people, you can really fix some things for people and sort of address some issues. And as I sort of think about how I'd program that sort of thing, I'd almost do it like a speed dating session where, you know, you'd almost get, you know, 10 things, and you go around for a minute and you tell somebody your problem, and then they get a minute to tell you, well, have you thought about this? Have you done that? And then you reciprocate, and then you move on to the next one. And you work your way through, and, you know, in 30, 40 minutes, you've maybe got to speak to 10 or 15 people who you've helped and have maybe given you an idea or solution. And that's sort of one part of it. And then another element of it would be to sort of then have it in bigger groups. Okay, so how does a bigger group come up with one problem that they think a consensus of their table is interested in solving? And then at the end, they share it with, you know, you've got a couple of tables and they share it with each other. And then from it all, in some way, I kind of capture the essence or the content or the sort of takeaways from everybody. And then, you know, we put that out as a package on Open Source Workplace as a content piece to sort of help everybody else. But in essence, that those who actually come to the actual event itself get the real benefit.
Okay, so that next step, and not just say, hey, we fixed it for them in person, but then you're going to share it with everybody else. And hopefully in case because there's always someone else.
There's always, and the way I look at it is, if someone's asking a question or someone has a problem, there's another 50 people who have the same question, have the same problem, have the same issues. And it's really a case, how do you provide people with a solution, and understanding that, you know, one person's predicament, even if they have the same problem, their situation is unique to them. So, you know, understanding of the answer may not be sort of fitting for everybody, but at least if somebody has the tools or process, then they can sort of take and adapt and put it in and spin it for themselves.
Or worst case, at least to give them another way to look at it. You know, they may have figured out what's best for them, but they still haven't thought about it in a certain way. And watching the video,
Right.
yeah. So it sounds like it's going to help a lot of people.
Well, I mean, again, that's the hope. That's the spirit of it, right? And again, I just think the industry is such a need for it. And I believe there are so many people within the industry who would benefit so much and would be so willing to be involved with it. So, but we'll see. You know, it's who knows. These ideas are great. It's all about the execution. It's all about getting the right people, and it's all been fortunate that sort of things come together at the same time. Because, as I said, you know, there's a lot of conferences coming up, and you know, after all that, there may be a little bit of conference fatigue. So, and then we're in the holiday season, so it's who knows, you know. So we'll see. I'll try and find something, and I'll try and find some time. And as I said, I think it's one of those things where if you're able to start something small, start on a routine, and people see benefits and success from it, then, you know, hopefully they're able to tell people and sort of it can grow from there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited just talking about it.
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah.
So I do want to touch base on, let's kind of shift gears here. Virtual assistants and hiring. You want to enlighten us a little bit, everybody who's watching? Because I know.
Yeah, no, because it's been something I've been thinking about, and I try to do it, to be honest, right? So I've been on this journey, and I've been trying these different things probably since January of this year. I mean, we're now in October. It's January of this year, just trying different things. And I did bring on a virtual assistant earlier, but to be honest, it was way too early. I sort of had different things lined up what I thought that person could do, but it was way too early. Where at the moment, I'm doing so much myself for my time, because I mean, I always have a full-time job, which is really demanding, and you know, I want to be sure that whenever I go in there, I'm 100% giving everything to that role. So how do I maximize the time when I'm not there? So how do I set myself up where I'm up at 4 a.m. every day, but how can I set up my day so between, you know, 5 and 6 or 6:30 every day, I have a clock or somebody telling me where I need to be and what I need to be doing, and somebody who can help program me so that in the evening, I have the ability to do that too. And as you know, with the various things that I'm trying to do, get webinars, get people to do interviews, and so on and so forth, having someone there to schedule that will be great. But just the time it takes for me to sort of cultivate those conversations, to get people up in the line calendars, that is not easy. So what I wanted to do is bring on a virtual assistant. So I've played around on different platforms trying to hire different people. You know, Upwork, I use them a lot. But this one, I just simply threw a note on a Facebook. Again, this was just something that try different things, try different situations, different platforms, and see what outcomes you get. So I threw something out there on the Facebook, and I got a couple of responses. And Mary, who I ended up going with, is a very, very bright person, and you know, she's doing virtual assistant for me, but I know she can do way more, and that would really excite me. But you know, I brought her on. We started like last Thursday, and you know, she reached out to you, set this up. We got to fix out how this works, because it didn't quite work the way we wanted it to, but that's okay. That's all part of the process. Part of that is that's on me, where I have to sort of set those parameters, and we will get there. But in essence, the whole thing about the virtual assistant is, how can I take time away from me, so I'm not thinking, what do I need to be doing? Because that time I need to be doing is when I can be doing. And I don't want to have to think about those things. I want somebody who's saying, you need to be doing this, this, and this. I watch a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know how familiar you are with him.
Gary V.
Yeah, Gary V. And to be honest, if you ever see the way he does all his you know, snaps his Instagram things. He basically, people just tell him, right, this is what this is, and away he goes, and he just drills them out. In other words, people set up the time he has to do, and you know, he preaches highly that the virtual assistant with the virtual assistant, he's twice as productive. He's actually said he's contemplating getting another one because he thinks he could be even more productive if someone basically just has him lined up to do different things, you know. And it's part of, you know, no, you're not a virtual assistant, absolutely not. But in essence, you know, you and I sitting here having to do this, you think in the questions, and you know, this from this conversation, you're going to go away and you're going to go, I want to ask this, I want to think about this, and the next time then it comes with different questions. It's all about how do you free up, or if I sat down and I try to do this myself, how do I come up with a conversation that people may want to have without being able to do it, right? And it's just structuring people around me to help me do the different things that I want to do with open source, you know. And it's just finding the right people. And it's, for me, it's whenever I find the right people, it's like, okay, how do I make sure this person gets so much value from me that it's really hard for them to actually, even if they get better deals or better offers, how do I make it so hard for them to say no to me or walk away from me? So I got to give them so much value. I got to give them so much promotion. That's why you look at open source. There's nothing there of my name. Everything is always of the names of the people who contribute. Always linking back to their sales funnel. Everything you do, there is your thing for Upwork. So everyone knows who you are. Your name's on everything. Your reference and all the subtitles. And that's just the whole spirit of I believe that everything should be done. You know.
Help others, they help you. Everybody succeeds together. It's a great.
Yeah, no. If you go to my LinkedIn page, it's the Zig Ziglar quote. You know, if you help enough other people get what they want, then you'll get what you want. You know. So.
Another great speaker.
Yeah. No, he's fantastic. I actually spent. I was actually in vacation this summer, and I don't know if you listened to one of his audiobooks. It's like 17 hours. It was his sales something. I can't remember what it was. It escapes me. I should look it up and give you the thing. But it's like 17 hours. I must have listened to it 3 or 4 times while I was on vacation. Brilliant, yeah.
Well, if you can, then I guess after this is done, maybe put a link underneath the video, and in case the viewers are curious, they have what the book is.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, at least you got your motivation. You know why you're doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
You got the resources, the background to do it. That's awesome. And you have kind of the, if not mentors, at least guiding people that are constantly providing you with motivation as well, keeping you moving forward. It's a great system. It sounds like it's going really well.
Yeah. It's one of the things I've had to do. I don't know what your experience is, because I know you've done a lot of this sort of stuff as well. And it's like, one of the things I've had to do to be disciplined is almost quieten the voices. So there's not so many voices going into my head. So in essence, it's almost, what is it I need to be focusing on right now? And only put those voices in my head. And it's so hard to do it because there's so many people and so many things you want to be listening to. So at the moment, I basically, I only really listen to Gary Vee and other people who are doing marketing things. So I'll sit and watch YouTube videos of how people build up Facebook advertisements and series and so on and so forth. But actually, a lot of my biggest influence into creating open source workplace was actually the book Bold by Peter Diamandis and Steve Cutler, where they talk about exponential technologies and how they're going to transform everything we do. And that scared the life of me whenever I thought about my own job. Right. So what do I do, and how do I then ensure that the folks at NASDAQ are always, you know, we're not doing things, we're not building and spending money, where 2 years later that technology is obsolete within the workplace. So these are just things that just play. That and other books of that ilk then sort of made me and really pushed me into creating open source. And then you go through, okay, so from there, how do you build that? I then focused on different books and how do you build and structure different organizations. I dug deep into, okay, so how did Airbnb and Uber and those like build their businesses? How did they build their actual technology? Whenever you dig into it, their technology is it's all source, it's all open source. There's very little proprietary technology in all those platforms. What they do is they were really good at building an experience, right, and delivering something that nobody ever thought they needed, and they just killed it whenever they did it, you know. So I just follow books for different programs, and what I'm focused on, that's kind of what I'm doing. So at the moment, everything's about how am I going to market this, and how am I going to grow this to be a little bit bigger as time goes on. And that's why, you know, that's how you and I got involved, because obviously I have all the written content. Okay, so what I think it's going to be the next evolutions, and where I think everything's going to go, and everything's going to go audio, because we get lazy and we get even more lazier. And you know, you can take something that may take you, you know, a couple of hours to read, but actually on audio you can listen to it in maybe half the time. And
well, while you're doing something like driving,
yeah,
you can sometimes speed the audio up, make it 1.5, 2 times as fast. With Google Home, Alexa, everything going into getting that smart home. I mean, you can be learning while cooking. You can be learning while doing your taxes. You can constantly have your book or knowledge source being played to you. So
yeah. No, and that's how I ingest all my a lot of my books at the moment. I have so many books sitting around here that I haven't read, but I put them on audio, and then I go out on my bike, or I go out for a run, or I go in the car, and it's just like the audio is just playing all the time. But what I typically try and do is, you know, I go out on my bike, I go for a run, is okay, I'd make a deal with myself. Okay, for the first half I listen to a book, but then the last half I gotta run. I gotta put on the music and just let myself go a little bit, you know. So yeah. But no, you're right. And I'm just, you know, then you get to the video, then it's like, okay, so that adds another aspect to it. So
sure. Well, I know Gary Vaynerchuk, Habit, but he preaches audio as well. He said, like, we're not there yet, but that's where we're heading. So it sounds like you're really staying on top of the curve. That's good.
Yeah. No, so I mean, it's so funny you say it, because I was listening to one of his books yesterday, and he was talking about audio and where he thinks he's going to go with Alexa. And this morning, so I'm up this morning, and I went to one of my writers, and I said, so this is what I want to do. Can you do this, and this? And then let's see where we go. So I'm trying to create almost a audio program, which you'll get to see at some point, I'm sure. So the content will be written, and then I just got to figure out how do we play that onto Alexa, or Google's virtual assistant as well. So
$1 million question.
Yeah. I think it's got to be a different type of content. I think it's got to be a different type of thing. I don't know. Who knows how it's going to play? But obviously that's the reason and my motivation to put everything that we're doing on audio. You know, I want everything to be there, and that's why I'm also trying to build up a lot of partnerships, so that whenever, you know, I get content that I think is so valuable, we put the audio on it for those folks as well. So whenever everything does finally transform or go to digital or go to audio, then everyone who's part of the network has the opportunity to partake and benefit from that. So
great. Now you mentioned technology. You've mentioned a virtual assistant, and we've talked about software going out of date. Let's combine some of these. What are your thoughts on basically implementing software to automate as much as you can? I've seen it was a speaker in the property realm, and he was saying, this is months back, I saw this. He was a speaker as well, just like himself. And he was saying, if you're not automating things, you're way behind. 1990 passed. I know you're trying to automate your day as much as possible, and I think that's a great mentality. Just wanted to hear your thoughts about less virtual assistant in person, but the automation aspect.
Yeah, no, it's and trust me, I've been looking at automation and AI and all those different aspects of how I can roll it into open source. So, you know, when I first tried to do, I mean, I go way back to whenever I was thinking about, okay, so how do I get content for the site? And I started trying to work with, honestly, probably low end low end. And this something just popped up on my screen. Sorry, bear with me. Okay, no, it's fine. It's only popped up. It just completely put me off. So my apologies. So yeah, so way back when I first started doing this, there were so many things that, okay, how can I automate things? How can I bring in new technologies so that I can sort of start illustrating how things are going to change in the marketplace? I went to Upwork and I tried to get some content writers who were relatively inexpensive. But honestly, because of the depth I wanted to go into content and I sort of wanted to sort of grasp as much SEO as I couldn't really do it. So I went and I tried to, there is a software called, it's like Article or something. I can't remember the exact name of it. I can find out what the name of it is. But in essence, this is basically a robot that writes content. So basically you would give it a title and it would create a story for you based on all the data that it actually has within its system. Or you can take a piece of content that's already been created. You can then paste it into the robot, and then the robot says the same thing but in a different way, so it's completely original.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, but I mean, it's whenever you see what it produces, and they're charging like $1 a story, right? So whenever you look, that's very appealing for a lot of people. Now, when I start digging and reading into it, it wasn't that great. Now, that's not to say 12 months from now it won't be. But in essence, the more content that goes into it, the more stories and articles that get pumped through the system, then the smarter it becomes. So I looked at that as well. And then whenever I was trying to find someone to do audio, the first thing you go to, okay, so AI, can it do it? And I looked at all the robots and I give it a short burst of the Elemental Workplace. And at the same time, I went to Upwork and I put it out there and to see what would come back. And to be honest, there was none of the softwares were that great. There was none of it would make me listen to it. Part of it would always be, no, that's not real. That's not a real human. It will get there. It will, of course it will. Yeah. But for me, it was always authenticity. Same with the other technology, authenticity. And I've used AIs and robots and all the rest of it for connections and for managing other aspects. So, Salesforce uses a lot of these different things. LinkedIn uses a lot of these different technologies as well, all behind the scenes. But I leverage some of those to sort of help grow popularity, etc. But I always want to come back to it. It's got to be authentic. It's got to be you. People got to see it's you, because the moment that they don't feel it's you, then you may lose. And even whenever I was having Mary, my assistant, reach out, I always asked her, always put in the thing, this is Mary, Steve's assistant, because I want people to understand that she's working with me, but I wanted her to always know when it's me and when it's not me.
Perfect. Yeah. So you're an advocate, but in a lot of aspects, we're not there, but you're excited for the future. Oh,
where it can bring efficiency, absolutely, for sure. But that personal touch, that personal, if everything we do, we're a service to somebody else. And the moment you take that away, where you're putting something between you and somebody else, it always puts distance. And that's something you always have to measure, and that's something you always have to be comfortable with. If there's a way for me to get one piece of paper onto my computer, then what's the fastest way to do that? You know what I mean? But when it comes to those personal relationships, then you got to make sure that it's as close as it can with very little separation. Yeah. Personal is the key word. Yeah. Not very personal when someone's, shouting across the room, in a metaphorical sense. Yeah. Well, then it sounds like you've highlighted a few different plans and where you expect to go with this. But like you said, it's changing every day. So I would want to hear just a recap of what's next, the things that definitely will take place for Open Source Workplace and yourself, and what is next that could take place. You've already touched on what you're excited about, but just the definites and the plans. Yeah. So there's from a personal perspective. As I go through this, what excites me the most is the process. I just love the process. It just, irrespective of what happens, I love, like, putting out a Facebook ad and just watching what happens to it, right? How does it go? You select this group of people, you go through, how does it read, how does it play, and it fascinates me. So I'm going to continue to really enjoy that process. But where's open source workplace going to go? So I have a site there today. That site's a beta site. It basically is on the back. I can turn certain things on, turn certain things off. And again, I'm just saying, okay, what is the impact that has when I do those different things? What happens when I don't post any content for a week? What happens when I post content 3-4 days in a row? What happens when I do all these different things? So people may be looking and going, yeah, he's not consistent, or he's not this, that, and the other. And I'm okay with that, because I'm trying to work out what people need. I'm trying to work out what people want. I'm also trying to do with different delivery of how I deliver content. So on Sunday, so I do a weekly summary of the last 7 days workplace news. So basically, I call it a Sunday morning squeeze. And yeah, I have to tell you why I call it that, because I think it's funny. So I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona on vacation, and I'm trying to, I know I want to do this. I know what it is. I just don't have a name for it. So I'm out walking, listening to my music, or listening to something, and I come across this brunch place, and it's called Morning Squeeze.
Okay.
And I went, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. That's it, Sunday morning squeeze. And it made me giggle, because it's just so stupid. And it's kind of funny.
It's so accurate, because it's Sunday morning, right? You're still relaxing, you know, the Sunday newspaper, like still want to get your news, but you want it in a different form, because you don't want the hustle and bustle.
Yeah.
But the Sunday morning squeeze, because it's like you're squeezing out what's left over from the week, you know? It's perfect. I can't think of a better, that's an amazing term.
So what I'm into, I always had one image of this big lemon and one little drip coming off the lemon, and that was what I had.
Yeah.
But then I was playing with different things again. So watching all these different videos of how do you do this, how do you sell stuff, how do you advertise on Facebook, and all the rest of it. And I came across a couple of different other softwares and applications to use. And one of them allowed you to do video. So there was a video where it was just a video, no noise, no nothing, of this woman who clearly just squeezed a whole bunch of orange juice. And the whole video is just her doing a little dance and then putting a glass of orange juice out in front of you. And then using their software, you could then go ahead and you could put all your narrative in there. And then on the back end of that, you can then, put a link through to your story. So I went, I got to try this. So rather than having sort of the image and laying everything out that I usually put out, I just tried this for comical. Now, what's really interesting is if you look at the amount of people who clicked on my story last Sunday compared to this, it's way down. But if I then looked on Twitter, if I looked on Instagram, it gets a lot more likes and traction. Different thing. Yeah. So again, these are just all little things that I'm trying, just testing out and see what actually happens. I don't know what works, and I'm still learning, but I'm prepared to do it. So that everyone's always going to see that. But the reason for saying all of that is I'm having a second website built. It's been built at the moment. It really is going to take the platform to completely another level. So at the moment, it's primarily for end users, meaning people like myself who work within organizations who are responsible for workplace, human resources, technology, things like that, leaders of organizations as well, or small businesses and business owners. What the new platform will do is bring in service providers. So basically they can come in and create their own membership, but almost they're going to create a landing page. What that means is they can come in and similar to like they do on LinkedIn, so you would come in, Alek, here's a picture of you, a little bit about you. Here's what you've done. Here's what your skills are, but maybe here's who you work for. And from there, I am as an end user who may want to use your services, I will be able to reach out, message you, and send you a quote asking for your services, all on the platform. And then also, I'm going to be able to rate and review you on your service.
And this is still all open source, or is there a subscription?
Still all open. Still all open.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if you put on your page and basically people, they want to send you a quote, you will pay a fee for receiving that quote, but you're going to receive it. You will elect whether or not you want to respond to it, and if you want to respond to it, then it would trigger a small fee. It's not, and your phone number, your website, everything's hidden. And people click on it, and you pay $1, whatever the rates are. I've yet to determine what those are, but that'll be the only thing that you would pay for having that on there. But in essence, you can put in, videos about yourself. You can put in audio. You can do, images, whatever it is about yourself. But then you also get to rate me as someone who came to you looking for service. So in other words, did I waste your time? Was I a good client? Mm-hmm. And then the whole point of it is hopefully through time, those people who are on the site and use the site, the cream rises to the top. So everyone knows who's wasting time and who's not wasting time. Because I think there's a lot of people who waste people's time in the industry. So that's one aspect of it. And if you're a co-working provider, there's going to be an opportunity for you to put your co-working locations on there, where then, basically you can put images and video, put your rate card for your co-working location. And then people like myself, or maybe other service providers who are interested in utilizing your services, would then click through and go through to your website to actually book it. And then also another aspect is if you want to create a conference. So you take what I'm trying to do as open source. I want to create a conference. I basically click on a button and I create a conference, and it goes up on the site as well. So these are little things that I'm looking to do, trying to take away. And also with conferences is I can rate and review. So if I go to a conference, I want to be able to rate and review those conferences so other people get to see and get to hear what were other people's experiences like. Was that one just a pure sales pitch? Was that one really valuable? Or was that one this type or that type? Because I think a lot of people go to things and sometimes they're not always what they're supposed to be. So,
well, that's it, making it that readily available. And as somebody who works with a handful of others, this sounds like a platform that I'd be able to utilize myself.
Right.
Instantly, the thing that jumps out to me is there's only a very small fee. It sounds much smaller than quite a lot of other platforms. Yeah. If there's going to be one, I know you're still working that out, but the fact that it only is there once you obtain work,
right,
or once you're helping someone, another way to put it, perhaps.
Yeah.
That's a big plus with such a low cost, if any. We'll see what happens here. It blows Home Advisor, like an Angie's List, out of the water, because I know they charge sometimes certain fees, or like you're up against however many people, but like you said, your cream will rise to the top because the rate and review, it takes the almost Amazon, eBay aspect of rate your product, but in that sense, rate your experience. So because we are selling a product, it's our service, it's helping someone else. It sounds like you're doing very much right.
So, and I want to do right by both sides, right? So one of the things with Angie's List, and like Angie's List is a great service. I use it all the time, right? But what I'll do is if I'm going to like get someone to come in and clean my home, I'll go to Angie's List and I'll say, who are the top 5 people who are highly rated in my area, and I'll email them all. So Angie's List is probably going to get a fee for all of those people. But then I don't know whether on the other side, whether they get to see that, okay, this is a guy who goes out and he maybe only books 1 or 5 people, right? Because that would be a metric that you would think, okay, well, that would be interesting to know if you're receiving a quote, and those are sort of things I kind of want to play into. So we'll see. And there's a whole lot more. Honestly, my brain just doesn't stop.
I believe it.
I see opportunities all the time. And everything is always about how do I remove as much friction as what I do in my day job and what I see other people in my job doing as well, And as I said, at that conference, and I've also reached out to one of my other writers because I think she'd be really, really good at doing these things, is how do I come up with templates to help people, right? It's not necessarily like, follow this is the way it has to do, but how do you find best in class templates and give people them for free. So in other words, how do you then, how does one of my writers basically go out and I know, say it's onboarding, right? So you want to onboard an employee. What is the best in class process that people use? What is the tricks? How do they do it?
Mm-hmm.
And then you put that and you just put it out there. And you basically show people and validate it with, this is where we got it. This is who's using it. And you put all those different elements to it so that it gains credibility. Now, again, it's not to say that somebody has to take it and use it end to end, but if you're a startup or you're a small business, then why not? But if you're a little more sophisticated, you can take elements of it that you don't have, put that into what you do have. And I think that adds value for people. I know it's things that I would like to have for things that I do. So again, these are just like little things that I just see all the time. And I'm just like, okay, how do we do this? How do we do that?
That is, I mean, that's a diamond in the rough right there. That's the onboarding process, because people talk about finding employees, or finding their job on the other side of things. But once you're in it, there's so much room for lateral movement almost, that if somebody's not onboarded correctly, they may not get a good feel for the company culture. A lot of things could go wrong. There could be some animosity. The list goes on and on. Yeah. But it's so crucial to onboard someone in, let's not say the correct way, because everybody's different. Businesses are different, but in one of the better ways.
It's such a, if you go through and you have a look at the data, something like 40% of employees leave their jobs within 1 year.
That's what I'm saying.
And it's like, so why is that? How does that happen, right? And I'm not saying it's, and it's not trying to point fingers or blame people. It's just because it's across the whole industry, right? Now, I don't know whether it's because we rely so much on technology to eliminate people, and therefore, we're not finding the right people who maybe we once did, because I do believe that those numbers are higher than the highest they've ever been. I'm sure people can tell me that that's not the case, but the data I know and the data I'm aware of, I don't think it's ever been this high. And you go to about, well, why is that? Well, it must mean that the person who was the hiring manager mustn't have known who the candidate was, right? There must have been some sort of breakdown there. The candidate must have had a misperception of what the job was. There must have been something wrong whenever the person started that broke down in the miscommunication or misunderstanding what the role was, the team, who the team was. There's so many different things that just happen with that it's how do you eliminate some of those breakdowns? I don't know what the answer is. I don't. But those are things that I think there's ways to get at it. And I think a lot of it is more and more transparency. Because I don't believe anybody wants to go for working a job that they don't understand. And I don't think anyone would take a job if they thought it wasn't going to be a fit for them. I don't believe any hiring manager would hire somebody if they didn't think that the person understood what they were being hired for, and they didn't understand what the culture was. So how do you close that gap from both sides? And then whenever somebody starts, how do you then build them on so they have full expectation of what the culture is and what's expected,
Sure. There's definitely, it's a 2-lane road, right? So information like that, what you were going over, is if it can help people, then, there's room to help people. I mean, if 40% is the actual margin, then there's definitely room to help.
Yeah.
Well, let's see here. Is there anything that just jumps out that you can tell your audience right now while you've got a platform to do so? Anything that sparked your mind over the weekend? Anything?
Nothing. I think we've touched on a lot, actually. I think you've done well in getting through everything and pushing me in different ways. You'd almost think we'd rehearsed it even though we hadn't. So well done, you. And, I'm really excited about, this process, getting to know new people, you included. you've been fantastic. You've been so responsive, and I love what you're doing, and I'm very excited about the opportunity for you, and I'm very excited about the opportunities and what you can bring to open source. So thank you, and I appreciate you making time to do this. This was really short notice, so thank you, and I really, really appreciate it.
Well, hey, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me as well. For anybody who's out there listening, if you liked it, share it with your friends. If you think that this can help someone, let them know. If you don't think this can help someone, there will be an article coming on Open Source Workplace. There's going to be chock full of information. So take this to Facebook, Instagram. I know we've talked about LinkedIn. There's plenty of platforms. Since you reach out to all and cater to all, then by all means, anybody who's doing this. And hey, you talked about feedback, getting reviews. If there's a comment section, let us know. Get in touch with Steven, give him some feedback as well, just from watching this video. We appreciate it. We're here to help you. Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. Thank you, Alek. Appreciate it. Likewise. All right. Well, have a great evening. And well, if this is going to be a weekly thing, then we'll talk to you next week. Talk to you next week. All right. Cheers, Alek. Cheers.